Welcome to Stock Photography Video Manual. This is a video manual about the process of making stock photography as a form of self-employment for deaf youth. In this video manual has 6 parts. Part 1. Understanding what stock photography is. Part 2. Recommendations for starting stock photography. Part 3. Setting the camera. Part 4. Selection and post-production of photos. Part 5. How to create an account and upload photos. Part 6. Hard work always pays off. Part 1. Understanding what stock photography is. Stock is a place to store goods for sale, in this case, photos. Stock photography is the internet market for advertising photography and journalistic photography. Stock photography as a concept started in 2000s, and stock photography as a concept changed several times since then. In the beginning, stock photography was a market made by amateur photographers with the idea to be more affordable to buyers than the photos of professional photographers. The idea was to enable photographers to sell one photo multiple times to as many buyers as possible. Companies would buy these photos for a small amount of money, but the quantity of sold photos would make it profitable to the photographer. In the meantime, stock agencies have found out that decreasing price will increase sale and profit. So there are photos that were sold over 20,000 times and are still in sale. If a photographer sells one photo 20,000 times for the price of €1, photographer can make 20,000 euros. The photographer can't earn that money by selling the same photo once to only one client. On the other side, buyers have a possibility to buy one photo for €1. That is much cheaper than hiring a professional photographer to do just one photography. Buyers or users of stock photography are advertising agencies, bloggers, designers, publishers, writers, web designers, and other freelancers. There are 2 types of stock photography: advertising stock photography and journalistic photography, so-called editorial. Advertising stock photography is used for advertisement. It can illustrate the concept of the advertisement, helping to bring together the textual part and the idea. Advertising photography can present reality, but it can also be abstracts. Special feature of advertising stock photography is its possibility to be used by various customers with the aim to promote different concepts and ideas. The theme and motive of this type of photography should be as broad as possible so it could be used worldwide. You can see that through the following examples. It is important to have a photo without any visible logo, trademark or title on any object in the frame. Also, copyrighted artworks are not allowed to be visible. For example, if you want to take a photo of someone who is reading a book, letters and logos on the book should be covered during photo shooting or retouched in post-production by removing or blurring letters. Stock photographer needs to have a written agreement with each model that is visible in the photo. That agreement is called model release. Model release is a document signed by the model, photographer, and the witness, where they agree that photos of that model will be used for stock photography. When photo shooting takes place in private or company-owned property or space that is recognizable in the photos, stock photographer needs to have a written agreement with the owner. That agreement is called property release. Property release is a document signed by the owner of property, photographer, and the witness, in case that some specific private or company-owned interior or exterior is in the photography used for stock. Buyers or users of stock photography are advertising agencies, bloggers, designers, publishers, writers, web designers, and other freelancers. Journalistic or editorial photography is photography used to tell a story. It is mainly used in newspapers or internet news websites. Editorial photos present what, who, where, when, and why something happened. It allows visible logos, trademarks, and artworks from famous artists in the photo without permission or agreement. For editorial photography, photographers do not need model release or property release. Editorial stock photos cannot be used for advertisement. You can see this through the following examples. Buyers of editorial stock photography are newspapers, web-based news portals, bloggers, and other news media. Advertising and editorial stock photography follow the contemporary market needs and trends. Photographers need to understand and contribute to the stock photography market needs and trends. Part 2. Recommendations for starting stock photography. Point 1. Try to understand the stock photography market and buyers' needs. Read forums, watch YouTube, take masterclass and lessons in that area. Find out who are buyers, what are they buying, who they are, and what their needs are. Point 2. Find your unique idea for stock photos that the market needs. It is better to choose something that you already do or like to do, something that you have a possibility to work with. Point 3. Make photos with emotions and story. It should be the visible emotions like what that person feels or express, what that person or persons are doing and what concept they present. Point 4. Make any photos of the motive with different variations. For example, make different compositions of the frame, make different angles of the same scene, do different emotions with the same model, do different themes in the same scene or make a different story. Point 5. Make a plan. Prepare and arrange everything for shooting. Choose a location, prepare objects, find a model and prepare for shooting time. Try to avoid shooting in a studio if it is possible, and also interior shooting if you do not have knowledge about lighting and if you do not have equipment to work in these conditions. Working outdoor on location is recommended. The best lighting condition is in the shade of a sunlight. You will have enough light for work and the model will have a natural face expression and emotion by avoiding looking directly into the sunlight. In case you work in direct sunlight, it is the best to shoot during the morning or evening hours when sunlight is not very intensive. Point 6. To begin with, use your friends as models. It is not necessary to hire professional models. If you are shooting editorial photos, you don't need permissions. You just need to plan what you are going to shoot. Point 7. Recommended photography editing programs: Adobe Photoshop, Lightroom, Photoshop Elements, Affinity Photo, and open source like GIMP, Photos, Raw Therapy, Canon Digital Photo Professional, Nikon NX View, and many others. During post-production, set the following things. Composition of frame. For example, crop the photo so that there is space left for putting the title in the future design. Correction of color, brightness, and contrast. This can be done in any photo editing software. Point 8. Make an account and upload photos to a stock agency website. There are different agencies like Istockphoto, Shutterstock, Bigstock, Fotolia, Adobe Stock, and many others. Research the terms for each one and choose the agencies that you want to work with. Writing the description and keywords for each photo can improve the sale if it is done well. It is better to have less keywords but relevant ones than a lot of them, which are not really relevant or that are repeating. Point 9. Always explore how sales can be better. Always work on improving all elements of stock photography like ideas, emotions, story, aesthetic of stock photo, post-production, keywords, and description and technique. Point 10. Do not stop working. Part 3. Setting the camera. Setting of the camera depends on the light conditions of the shooting location. If you work in conditions with a lot of light, you can use full auto mode or program mode. This is a demonstration of how to set it. In these cases, modern DSLR cameras will ensure good quality for static photos like photos of objects, food, portraits, landscapes, people and building. If the motive is simple, it is possible to work even without technical knowledge. If the motive is more complex, like having multiple people in the frame where someone is closer to the camera than someone else, or in case of shooting moving objects or people, if there is a lot of light conditions for taking photos, if wants to have everything sharp in photo, then the photographer needs to have more technical knowledge about setting the camera. One of the most important elements for setting the camera is focus. By choosing a focus point in the frame, we are choosing which part of photo will be sharp. For example, if there is a person pointing a finger in front of the face, we can choose for focus to be on that finger or on the face. More advanced way to make photos is setting up the camera manually in manual mode that is marked with the letter M. It enables the photographer to have a creative control over aesthetics of the photos and to control brightness. Brightness in photography is called exposure. Setting brightness is making balance between ISO, shutter speed and aperture. ISO is sensitivity of the sensor. You can set ISO on camera like this. A lower number will increase quality of the photo and decrease quantity of the light the sensor takes. Shutter speed is the length of exposure in fractions of a second or seconds. Longer shutter speed increases quality of the light in camera, but it makes motion blurred. Shorter shutter speed decreases quantity of the light and stops motion in the photo. Aperture is a hole in the lens that enables light to go through the lens and to the sensor. Smaller value of aperture means a larger aperture, so more light reaches sensor of the camera. This also makes a small depth of field that makes the background blurred. The other way around, a bigger value of aperture means a smaller aperture, meaning that opening is small and less light reaches the sensor of camera. This increases depth of field, making more areas that are in focus sharp, making more areas in the photo sharp but decreasing quantity of the light. When we are making a balance between these three parameters, like ISO, shutter and aperture, we need to set them in a way that produces good aesthetics and good brightness in a photo. Good aesthetics means that the photo is sharp where intended, and that photographer produced certain effects that he planned. Measuring light quantity is doing with a light meter integrated in every modern camera. This meter shows the quality of the light, so we know how to correct it. Regarding this, the photographer has to choose one of three parameters which has smallest impact in aesthetics and to set up the light. Here are a few samples of setting the camera in manual mode. For portrait, outdoor, in the sunlight or shade, first set aperture on value 5.6, then set ISO 100 and shutter on value that gives correct brightness according to metering on the camera. This camera setup will give a blurred background. For landscape in sunlight, first set aperture on value 22, set ISO 100 and shutter on value that gives correct brightness according to metering on the camera. Use a tripod to avoid camera shaking. You can also use self-timer up to 10 seconds to avoid shaking the camera when pressing the shutter button. For food, outdoor, in the sunlight or shade, first set aperture to value 22, ISO 100 and shutter to the value that gives correct brightness according to metering on the camera. Use a tripod to avoid shaking the camera. For sport, outdoor, in sunlight, first set shutter to a value of 1000 part of the second, then set aperture on the smallest value such as 5.6 or 3.5 and set ISO to give correct brightness according to metering on the camera. Night shot of the city. Set ISO 100 and aperture on value 5.6, then set shutter on the value that gives correct brightness according to metering on the camera. Use a tripod to avoid shaking the camera. It is also important to set correct white balance in order for colors to look natural. White balance has to be set according to shooting conditions of light source color, that is called temperature of light source. For shooting photos in sunlight, use daylight white balance settings. For shooting photos indoor in conditions with yellow light, use tungsten or incandescent white balance settings. You can also take photos with auto white balance and correct colors in post-production. Part 4. Selection and post-production of photos. After taking hundreds or thousands of photos, not all of them will be suitable for selling on stock. It is recommended to select those that will sell best and upload only those. Such photos have a clear theme, idea, and emotion. If you upload too many similar photos, the stock agency will most likely reject them. Post-production for stock needs to follow the rules of stock agencies, and that means that buyers get photos ready for use. Post-production in photo editing software requires at least recomposing the photo and correcting colors, white balance, brightness, and contrast. Recommended photography editing programs are Affinity, Adobe Photoshop, Lightroom, or free and open source software like GIMP, Photos, Raw Therapy, Canon Digital Photo Professional, Nikon NX View, and others. We choose Affinity Photo as it is more affordable to beginners, but these processes are quite similar in any other software. You can increase or decrease contrasts, highlight, shadows, black or white tones, saturation or vibrance, and choose if the photo will be in color or black and white. We will demonstrate this process in Affinity software. There is also a procedure of blurring or completely removing logos, text, trademarks, and signs. Sometimes trademarks and logos can be covered during photo shooting, which saves you time in post-production. Now we will demonstrate how to remove chromatic aberrations. Chromatic aberration is an issue caused by the lens imperfections that cause color mismatch on borders of an object in photography. It is also important to avoid too aggressive post-production or use of too many filters, too much sharpening, and strong noise reduction. In case that the camera was set correctly and shots are without technical issues and logos and other signs are not visible, the photos don't have to be post-produced at all. Part 5. How to create an account and upload photos. Register your profile with correct personal and bank account data. If data is not correct, you will not be able to receive money later. Registration is different for each stock agency, but all of them require email and other contact information, username and password. After you confirm your identity by uploading a valid ID document and/or by email confirmation, you become registered. Some stock agencies offer cooperation through exclusive or with non-exclusive contract. Exclusive contract means that you are allowed to upload photos only for that agency. The photographer is now allowed to offer the same photos to another agency. Non-exclusive contract means that the photographer can offer the same photos to many different agencies. Non-exclusive contracts are better for beginners. Each stock agency has buyers from different regions and markets. When uploading photos, writing a title for each photo improves the sale, because buyer will search for a photo by the title. Writing appropriate description and keywords will improve visibility of your photo, which means that it will be easier for the photo to be sold. Try to avoid copying titles, descriptions and keywords from other photographers. The agency can remove your photo or worse, your account can be banned. Part 6. Hard work always pays off. If you think that you are not good enough to start, remember that no one was the best when they first began. If you are afraid that you will not sell any photos, have it in your mind that if you do not do anything, you will not sell anything. If you think that an amateur camera is not enough, you're wrong, because nowadays stock photo can be done even with smartphone cameras. If you think that an amateur camera is not enough, you are wrong, because nowadays stock photo can be done even with smartphone cameras. Your idea and creativity are more important than the technical part. Do not wait until you have made thousands of photos just so you can start. Start with uploading just one photo. The common mistake that beginners make is that they start and after a while, when they realize that the photos are not selling, they give up. The point is that we should be patient and do consistent work, and the result will come after a while. It is not possible to make stock profile and instantly start earning a lot of money. Sometimes it takes at least 2 years to make average monthly salary. During this time, photographer needs to improve knowledge about market needs and trends, also to improve photography, ideas and creativity. That's a process that requires patience. Try to find some specific theme that is in your surroundings and that you are able to work on. For example, if you are doing fishing or you have some musical instrument at home, use this. That is your advantage. If the sale is not good, try to explore what are reasons for that. Are you really doing themes that market needs? Are you original enough? Do your photos have a story? Are you good enough in the technical part? Even though we mentioned that the technique is not the most important part, some of the basic requirements must be met. If you have a problem to find a model, you can ask your parents, family members or friends. Stock photography can also be done without a model. You can make photos of animals, birds, cities, landscapes, nature, objects, food, and so on. If you are consistent and patient, after a while you can earn an average monthly salary by selling your stock photos. And at the end, during you are doing photo shooting, try also to have fun and enjoy work. Thank you for watching this video manual. We hope that this will help and encourage you to start with stock photography.